I have an important message for a select few. That's not all of you. This is for a select few of you guys that are listening or watching this. It's for trade business owners that have been around for a while. They understand the frustrations of marketing and being in control or not being in control. Guys, it's 2021 and many of you are marketing yourselves like it's the year 2000. Off the back of a global pandemic, we've seen huge shifts in the market with people turning to service providers they know, like, and trust. There's never been a better time to establish the tools and frameworks in your business to take advantage of these things. These things that will serve you not only now, but serve the business ongoing. Over at Tradie Web Guys, we've recently launched the Elevation program. It equips businesses with the tools and the programs required to successfully market themselves. It gives you tools to re-engage with your past and present clients whilst nurturing potential clients. It creates assets in your company's name with no proprietary licenses. You own these things 100%. It gives your business a huge head start on the search engines with advanced SEO, and it collates all of the programs and all the services you need into one neat little bundle, including things like web development, website management, email marketing, SEO, Google Ads, loads of different softwares, strategy, support, and a bunch of other things. After going through this program, you'll have all the tools you need to market your business ongoing. You'll have a huge head start in your marketing, and you'll also have a CRM so you can continue to build your database whilst engaging your current customers and re-engaging those customers that you've essentially forgotten about. Marketing tools that you need, and they'll all be in your control. You don't owe anyone anything. You'll be able to dial it up and down essentially as you see fit. So why is this an important time to talk about this? Guys, it's important to know a lot about a little and a little about a lot. Meaning, you want to be in control. You want to know enough to be dangerous. I'm not trying to give you more work here. Essentially, we'll set everything up for you, teach you the basics, and then it's all yours. It's complete transparency. You'll never grow a business past a certain point without marketing. Word of mouth will only ever get you so far. We've spoken about it on the podcast a load of times. At some stage, you need to invest in these things. This is the simplest and most affordable way to do it. For more information, head across to tradiewebguys.com.au/elevation, fill in the form, and let's make 2021 the year that you took control. Today's podcast has been proudly brought to you by Tradie Web Guys. Tradie Web Guys work with tradespeople only on their websites and marketing solutions to help them stand out from their competition. Everything from web design through to SEO, search engine marketing, content creation, you name it, guys. It is a customized solution for trade-based organizations, and it's fantastic. Head across to tradiewebguys.com.au/apply, fill in the form, and let's have a conversation.
Giving tradies and contractors around the globe the tools to run a modern business. You're listening to Toolbox Talks from the Site Shed. Now here's your host, Matt Jones.
Danielle, welcome back to the Site Shed podcast.
Hey, Matt, it's great to be here.
You're joining us today for the third and final episode, folks, of the Exit Strategy versus Wishful Hoping series. This is part 3, which is Gracefully Exit and what your options are. In the previous episode, which was number 2, we were talking about value building, which stemmed on from episode 1, which was how to begin planning your exit strategy. Guys, if you missed those episodes, do go back and check them out. You'll probably find that we're going to reference them pretty heavily, and a lot of what you'll learn today is going to tie into those previous episodes. So do yourself a solid and go check those ones out first. Danielle, thank you for joining us once again. You're all the way over in Georgia in the US, probably getting a little bit late there for you. So you've got family to get back to. So thank you for taking the time.
Great to be here. I love it. I appreciate it. It's a little bit late. It's 5:10 and the office closes at 5. And I'm sitting here thinking, I don't know if I have an office key. They might leave me here, but that's okay.
In the first episode, as I touched on, we talked about a lot about planning the exit strategy and, having that, that end game in mind and reverse engineering and doing all that kind of stuff. So it was really valuable. And in the last episode, we spoke about, what are some of those, how can we build value into the business at different levels, which, can impact, first of all, customer experience, but then, as almost a serendipity of doing that, how can we make our business look more presentable to someone that might want to come along and buy it? And in this episode, we're talking about how to gracefully exit your business. This is actually something that's kind of fresh in my mind after reading Jim Collins' Good to Great not so long ago. When he talks about, a lot about, these executives that find successors for their business, and, people that can come in and essentially replace them. And it's kind of the same thing, I suppose, if you're going to sell your business, like, as much as you love the idea of having a huge amount of cash in your bank, for the better part, a lot of, the feedback that I get anyway for a lot of trade businesses is that, they spent their life building this business and they're not prepared to give it away to, some Charlotte that's going to take it, run it into the ground and devalue the business and, kill their legacy. So I think like gracefully exit. I think gracefully is the key word there. And so I'm looking forward to diving a little bit further into those. I guess we're talking to business owners here, really. I suppose as well, with that said, even as a business owner, you could certainly put a lot of, like a pretty big spin on what we're talking about to things like management positions within your business. How could you help a manager gracefully exit, and that's quite common. You see very often, people in businesses that are sort of not maybe tied to it to a degree because they've been there for so long and they're kind of part of the furniture, so how can we help those people gracefully exit,
Yeah, we could definitely talk about that. When I think of gracefully exit, what's wrong with not selling your business? What's wrong with just staying on as an owner and then having a president or a general manager running the business? And you maybe show up once a month to say hi because you like to go around, and maybe you don't. But what's wrong with just owning a business and then you go do your other hobby? Matt, my dad was a contractor all my life. And today, if you ask me, hey, where's Rodney at these days? His name's Rodney. Well, he's probably in his garage doing woodworking. Well, no, he's a woodworker now, and he was never into woodworking. He never did any kind of woodworking at all my whole life. And now all of a sudden he's got the coolest woodworking shop you ever saw. And it's his new hobby. It's really expensive. And so he's got to justify all the cool tools and things that he's buying now. But hey, do you need any cabinets? Can I make you some cabinets? Like, no, not really. But that's what he's doing. Now he still owns our business. We're partners in our business, the New Flat Rate, together. Well, he doesn't come in, so he hasn't sold it. He hasn't fully exited, but he has. It's not even, I don't know, do you call it retirement? He's now an owner, and then he has somebody running the business. Now, what's wrong with that? Isn't that a wonderful way to go for so many of us?
I think as well, and you hear this a lot, like for the better part, and my friend Darren has been on the show a couple of times. He spends half the year overseas, sometimes more. And the feedback he gets is when he's home is, when are you going away again? And I think it's kind of like music to your ears to a degree.
Yeah.
He can see things improving when he's away, and he's like, wow, I don't really need to be there. However, that said, like there are, as we touched on, in previous episodes, your role within your business will change. And I mean, I look at, the role in my own business right now, and I know the value. I know that I'm most valuable in, like, doing this sort of thing, like creating content.
Yes.
That might seem like, if you look at, and I've got myself on the org chart, or the perspective org chart where I want to be. It's so far down the chain. It's like below the marketing manager, like creating content, and like that's. But I know that fuels. I mean, that's not to say that I'm not across everything. Of course, I'm across everything. But I just know, like, where my time is best spent is not necessarily obvious to the business owner, And so, like you say, I mean, you look at Rodney, and Rodney's now, essentially retired, and that's probably sounds like a dream to a lot of people, being able to, have a business that pays you and you don't essentially have to do anything in it. However, for a lot of you other guys out there, it might mean a bit more time that you can do things to yourself, or it might mean, like we touched on back in, when we're talking about organizational structure, like, how can you remove yourself from stuff that you just hate doing? You might hate doing the accounts receivable. You might hate reconciling. You might hate chasing bills. You might hate dealing with customers. You might hate, like, answering phones or whatever it is, Like, so how do you gracefully exit from that part of the business, And so it doesn't necessarily mean you have to hang up the boots and completely retire. For some of us it might, but I think, the premise of, like, having an exit strategy in place is that you can essentially walk away from the entire business and not necessarily be tied to it. And if you look at Rodney right now, if Rodney turned around and said, tomorrow I want to sell out, and you'd be like, sure. Like, you don't do anything anyway, go,
You know what? It's really important as an owner to be able to identify the highest and best use of your time. And Rodney, similar to you, is really great at content creation and ideas. So he'll come to the office and he'll visit. I got to get a blank piece of paper so that I can actually show you this visual. But he'll come by and he'll talk to me for an hour, and then I'll draw a big sign. Let's see, where's my camera? No new. That's supposed to be a no sign. Like I'll put the word new on the whiteboard and I'll say, no more new, no more new. That's enough. I have enough to implement for now.
Right.
You got to go away for a while. But identifying the highest and best use of your time as an owner for you at content creation, because you've replaced yourself in other positions and you've gotten out of the way to let your team members grow their positions, right? And if we were going to think about gracefully exiting and exit strategy and what do we want our legacy to be, how awesome is it to know that you have a team of people that are fulfilling their purpose by really growing and doing what they're passionate about every day, that you have the right people on your team that are so passionate about your company and what they're doing, and they didn't get there because you bonused and incentivized them. You didn't just go out and hire somebody and give them a big bonus and say, okay, you're going to do this position, and know that they're going to just show up every day and do it passionately because they love it. No, it doesn't happen like that, right? You either do or you don't. So finding and getting the right people in there takes time, and recognizing, looking to the future, okay, someday I'm going to exit whether I want to or not, and maybe I just want to be an owner but not have to run it every single day. Matt, I know a lot of people in the trades who are owners and who have general managers running all of their technicians, their warehouses, all their inventory. And so now their hobbies, one in particular, a friend of mine in Texas, he just built like a small water park for his town. And so he loves to do community events and parties. So, he owns this really great heating and air, electrical and plumbing company, which is wonderful and excellent and very successful. But what he does now, he still owns it on the day-to-day. He's running his little water park over here for the community because that's what he loves.
Yeah.
But it took time. Like we were talking about before, it takes over 20 years to be an overnight success. Things don't just happen. You got to work and work, but starting with the end in mind, and backing out. What do I want it to look like? Do I have the right people to help me get there? And am I getting out of their way by recognizing and identifying the highest and best use of my time and everybody's time?
And I think as well, like that, having that strategy in place and having that framework within your business, like you said before, like empowering people to take control and make decisions and sure, follow process, but then put their spin on, how it's delivered, like process isn't there to remove creativity. It's there to improve it by, giving them less to worry about, but like essentially part of that exit strategy could involve those people potentially, and you see it quite often where you've got general managers or you've got people that started as the apprentice or the box packer and they moved their way up to site supervisor, and then they moved into, whatever it is. All of a sudden they're general manager, and then sure, they get, they get equity in the business, or they potentially, buy the business or whatever that might look like. So for a lot of you guys, and this might hit home to a lot of people out there, they might have people in their company that may potentially one day, you might see them as a potential successor, but you've got to make sure that you've got, like, typically those type of people are people that want to be challenged and they want to be driven and they want to see a path to success. And I know, one of the big things that we focus on is that org chart. And we've spoken about it a million times, and just making sure that when people come into a certain position in the business, they understand where they could end up and what that might look like for them. That takes a lot of work. It and does. A lot of ongoing work, I might say. Like, I'm revisiting the org chart weekly, and I'm making changes to things. Yeah. Updating deliverables and, trying to get feedback from the team, where are you, where are the bottlenecks? Where could we potentially remove some of these, issues? Does it mean more people? Does it mean more technology? Does it what does it look like? You've really got to consider all these things. And so, like, in terms of like gracefully exiting, like as much as we're all looking at this going, yeah, I'd love to gracefully exit my business, we've also got to look at, well, how can we help people within our organization gracefully exit their current role so they can move into, perhaps a higher area or a different part of the business, which can remove me further. Like, by me helping them gracefully exit this role, I'm helping myself gracefully exit from this role, is that kind of mindset.
Yeah.
So,
it comes a lot down for me to honesty being really honest that somebody else could take this position a little bit further. And that's what's best for the company.
And I think as well, like, the whole dilution, when you're across too many departments and you're across too many things, you're diluted. Whereas if you've got people that have come in for a specific role in a certain area in the business,
Right.
they've got focus and they've got direction and they've got like set deliverables and tasks, and they will certainly do it better, because that's, instead of them trying to do 15 things, they're doing one really well.
Yes. Yes.
So I think that's a big, but I mean, those things don't happen overnight, and they certainly, in my experience, they very rarely happen without planning, or they very rarely happen successfully without planning,
Yeah.
People have this big goal. I want to bring on a general manager. It sounds great, but you go and bring in a general manager tomorrow, you essentially cut the business profit into pieces, perhaps reduce it all, and then all of a sudden you're hemorrhaging and you can't afford this person, you've got to let them go, and then you blame them. And like, you got to make sure it's well planned. Yeah,
you do. And, depending on the size of your company too, your audience, I don't know if you guys are small companies or large companies.
They're all different.
Totally. So for some, it might start in the form of a personal assistant or a personal assistant who then becomes a project manager, your right hand, then becomes that you start offloading all of your major tasks. And then over time, if it's the trustworthy, loyal person that identifies with the core values of the business, and the loyalty is both ways, and you learn this over time. If the loyalty is there, if this is a person that's going to be loyal to you and you're going to be loyal to that person, then you start letting go of the reins and letting them make more business decisions. And then all of a sudden you realize, wait a minute, this can be a succession plan right here. It doesn't have to be hiring, this general manager over here. It could start with a PA, a personal assistant project manager.
I tell you, it can start at a piece of technology. And I speak to so many businesses right now, and they just hemorrhage at things like creating invoices and chasing invoices, and I just think you guys are insane. Like, even my bookkeeper yesterday, she sends me an invoice, right? And I emailed her back and I said, oh, your payment link doesn't work. And she says, I don't have a payment link. This is my bookkeeper.
Right. I know.
And she's sort of on the chopping block already, and I think she just put the final nail in, to be honest, because I'm like, this is insane. Like, you can't, like, how could you, like, so now the alternative is I've got to go log into my bank. I've got to do an EFT transfer. Like, I mean, our banking system compared to, the US, it's quite easy to do online payments. But even still, like, I'm just thinking, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. So when you're looking at the highest and best use of your time as an owner, and what do you need to be doing, take a list of everything else that you do, and you got to delegate it out, right? You got to get rid of it. And if you're having to be involved with your bookkeeper, that person's going to have to go. You're going to have to find somebody that you don't have to do that with.
So I just encourage you guys out there, when you're looking at like gracefully exiting, look at the things that are taking up a lot of your time and perhaps unnecessarily, or look at things that maybe, where is your time best spent, and figure out how you can remove yourself from the other stuff, gracefully exit from the other stuff, so that you can focus more, where your time's most valuable. And that could be, I'm going to bring in a job management software that can help me improve our deliverables and help us improve the way we manage our jobs. It could mean I'm going to put in a bookkeeping software so that we've got complete clarity and we can invoice on the job and we can take payment and we can do all this kind of stuff. I mean, this technology is like a dime a dozen these days. I think, Zero bookkeeping, which we use in Australia, I think with payroll, it's like $60 a month, and it saves thousands of dollars in accounting fees. But some people look at it and they go, oh, I don't know, $60 a month. I don't know if it's an expense I'm willing to pay. And I'm like, yes. Like, look at the bigger picture. Look at how much you're spending in extra accounting fees.
It's your time. Yeah.
Just mind-boggling.
Yeah. So, identifying what your time is worth as the owner, and then are you willing to spend that much money on that? No. And so,
I think the ripple effect of like gracefully exiting is very apparent, and it goes all the way down to, all the way down to technology. If you can bring in I mean, you look at 20 years ago in business, right? Before cloud bookkeeping software, that was a very manual, labor-intensive task that would essentially have a accounts receivable or accounts payable, or maybe an internal bookkeeper sitting at a desk in an office in a building, like doing this stuff. And now you can essentially do the whole thing from the app on your phone.
Right. Isn't that crazy?
But now, you look at just like some of these businesses that are kind of been, and one of the, I mean, probably less relevant to people that are watching this because we're kind of preaching to the choir. But you look at some of these businesses that are stuck in operational methods that they've inherited from companies they worked at or they've taken over, and they don't know any different. And I've said it before. When I did my apprenticeship, I worked in a company, and that said, that was almost 20 years ago as well. But they did the carbon copy invoicing, and they did that sort of. That's how they operated. They'd go, and I just thought, this is how it's done. You go there, you do the job, you write out a carbon copy invoice, you leave it with the client, and then you have the people in the office chase the bills for months, and maybe you get paid, maybe you don't. And then I went and worked for another company, and all of a sudden they're using these. They've got a computer that does it all, and it's just all. And then they're carrying little bank terminals, and they take payment on. Little bank terminals. They were like freaking lunch boxes back then. They take payment on site. And I'm like, whoa, that's so much better. You haven't got to chase bills. They're like, yeah, no, we just take all the payment. We do the work, get paid. I'm like,
yeah.
So there's all these little things, right? And better ways you can refine process. Tying back to what we said, in a previous episode, there's always ways you can improve process. And it's not to say that you should be constantly changing the way you do things, but certainly be receptive to better ways.
Yeah. And, business owners can be so busy. And I had a baby this year, Matt, which was so awesome. But what was so great about it, here we are, in quarantine, COVID-19. And so I had to quarantine my company. We all went home for 30 days. And here I am 40 weeks pregnant, working out of the basement of my house. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is horrific. But what was awesome about it is I had a wonderful, beautiful little precious baby. Awesome things come out of that, right? And then 2 months maternity leave. And so when you're at home and you're on maternity leave, I did a lot of work to make sure that I wasn't running my business while I was on leave. There's times when you can't help it and, maybe an accident or something happens and you can't set yourself up for that. But in this scenario, I knew the baby was coming. I knew maternity leave was coming, and I knew I was planning to be out of the office. And so for those 2 months, my office shockingly did not need me. They did fine. They sailed forward with flying colors. And, it's a little bit ahead of the pride that, they don't really need me that much. But, sometimes as the owner, we're not the most important person. We get in the way. But what it showed me again is such a good eye opener. Don't get busy. Don't get busy. So when I came back in July, back to the office, I had to fight that internal. It was a big challenge. Don't get busy. Don't get busy. And so every day coming in, just don't get busy. Don't just say, yes, I'll do that. I'll do this. And instead I had to free up and stay freed up to be thinking. Because as an owner, we have to spend time to think, to work on our business instead of in it. But when we get busy, we can't, right? But I was away for 2 months and they didn't die. They were all still here when I got back. But why the minute do I walk back in the door, I think, I got to get busy again and justify, I don't know, right? So it was so good for me. Not everybody can go and get pregnant and have a baby. I recognize that. But, it forced me to be out of the office for 2 months to think, all right, what systems are in place? What can happen when I get back, not to get busy, so that I can work on my business. So as owners, if we're going to improve a little bit, we're going to start thinking about our exiting, thinking about our value building, thinking about, our team and all different things, not getting busy. I just want to remind everybody, again, like you said, preaching to the choir, but to delegate something from your list today. Whatever your priorities are, delegate at least one thing today.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good starting point for most things, just how can I remove that whole 1%, I don't know what you call it, mindset thing, or, you improve by 1% every day kind of thing.
Yes.
And I think that's right. If you can delegate or you can outsource one thing, what potentially could that free up for you?
And the reason why I challenge to do that is to start moving towards getting in the habit of every single day when you make your list of, hey, this is what we're going to do for the company today. This is what we're going to accomplish. Then looking at that list and delegating out as many things as you can. So start with one, but then tomorrow, delegate out as many as you can and free up your time.
Well, look, this has been great. I don't know if we need to go too much more into this one. What do you think? I mean, there's so many all
day, so we'll stop there.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many awesome resources available for people to help them with these things. There's business coaches and there's books and there's podcasts and there's all this kind of stuff around. So just get out there and find them, like if you guys are out there looking for, reputable coaches, hit me up in the Facebook group. I'll connect you. Like we have so many awesome coaches that are part of our community. Many of them have been on the show. Some of them haven't, but they're still great, and a lot of these people specialize in things like this, like there'd be countless books on exit strategy. I can tell you right now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just a matter of you taking some initiative and getting up and finding that stuff if that's relevant to where you are in business. This may not be relevant to where you are in business, but it's still good to know because as we spoke about in the first episode, it's all about planning for that point in time when it does become relevant. So anyway, Danielle, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. I should probably let you go and get back to your little baby. Danielle, you're from the New Flat Rate. That's thenewflatrate.com. There'll be links and everything in the show notes to where you can get hold of Danielle. Yeah, thank you very much for your time. That was the third episode that we just recorded on the exit strategy versus wishful hoping series. Again, guys, go back and check the first two out if you missed them. They were all just as awesome. Danielle, thank you very much. And we look forward to speaking to you again in the future, hopefully.
Hey, thanks, Matt. It's been great.
That's a wrap. Thank you for listening to another episode of Toolbox Talks. If you're liking what you hear, then you can head across to thesiteshed.com where you can join our community by signing up to our Toolbox Talks. You'll get sent a weekly notification, which is basically a highlight of everything that we've spoken about during that week, along with any other industry news that may be relevant or specific to the trades. If you're enjoying the show, you can head across to iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, where you can leave us a review. That would be fantastic, and all the reviews get read out in the show. Likewise, if you have any friends or colleagues that you think would benefit from the show and the episodes that we create, then please go ahead and share it with them.